Well, thank you so much for that gracious introduction. It's a great privilege for me to give this talk on sharing in practice. And you know, I'm very moved to be here. In this wonderful gathering, we are privileged to get a glimpse of the global church. It's actually a glimpse of the glorious bride of Christ in all her diversity, her unity, her strength, her amazing gifts, and her desire to serve her Lord. And when we sing and praise together, combining in different languages, it's actually a glimpse of the future, isn't it? When we're going to meet again with a great multitude of people from every nation and tribe and people and languages standing before the throne and worshipping the Lamb. And not many people have the privilege that we have to get a pre-echo of what that's going to be like. And isn't it amazing that by God's grace we're here? You know, so often when we're working alone and wherever we are, the evil one whispers in our ear. And he whispers, it's a waste of time. You're a dying little minority. It's all going to waste of time. You're going to fail. Nobody is interested in what you believe. Nobody believes it. You're on the wrong side. It's a waste of time. And when we come here, we realize that it's a lie. That the evil one is described as the father of lies. And we need to recognize that voice. And we need to confront it and say, no. I have a thing I say back to the evil one when he whispers in my ear. And I say, the Lamb wins. You're wrong. The Lamb wins. And he knows that, actually, and it's something he's not going to admit. So I also, as I'm here, I can't help but think of those missionary pioneers over 2,000 years who gave their lives so that the good news of Jesus might be taken to every nation that is represented here. Whatever nation you come from, there were Christians who gave their lives so that you could hear the gospel. They went out across the world because they had a vision that one day God would bring people from every land into his church. And those missionary pioneers went to their graves and they never saw what they gave their lives for. And now, almost for the first time in world history, we can start to see it with our own eyes. Isn't that a privilege? Why should we be living at such a time as this? Why should we be given the privilege that so many people died and never saw? I give this talk with a great sense of inadequacy because who am I to talk to you about putting Christian sharing in practice? I may be a professor, but frankly, from the inside, that doesn't mean a lot. I've worked as a clinician, a baby doctor in pediatrics and neonatology for about 30 years until I stopped clinical practice in 2011. And over that time, I've tried to learn what it means to live the life of a Christian doctor. And sometimes I've felt the privilege, the amazing privilege of being part of God's work. And I've seen glimpses of the way that the God of the universe has been able to use my little ministry in the lives of my patients and my colleagues. But I have to admit, I'm also very conscious as I stand here of my failures and my weaknesses. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to pretend that I've reached a state of spiritual maturity and wisdom, which isn't true. I've been a Christian doctor for more than 30 years, but I still feel like a beginner. I'm still a learner. And maybe you're a learner too. So what I'd like to share with you from one learner to another are some of the principles of how we can take this wonderful theory, it's wonderful theology of Christianity, and try and translate it into practical caring as healthcare professionals. Andre, my friend, has told us about the importance of a narrative, the importance of narrative when it comes to understanding our lives in the context of a big story. So here is a narrative that is based in the truth of God's world. And it all starts before the foundation of the world, before the Big Bang, 13.3 billion years ago. Before then, the Father imagined you and loved you and chose you and chose to call you into existence as a unique individual. And you know what? In the Father's loving wisdom, he prepared good works, especially for you. That's what it says in Ephesians 2, verse 10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. It's a wonderful, amazing, mind-blowing thought, but it's also quite sobering. I mean, God could have called you to be a Christian healthcare worker in the early church, like Luke, the beloved physician. He could have called you to be a godly missionary doctor at the time of the great missionary movement in the 19th and early 20th century, when the average life expectancy of medical missionaries in Africa was said to be 6 months. And thousands died from malaria and other tropical diseases, and yet they kept going, year after year. But instead, God is calling you to be a Christian physician, a dentist, a nurse, a healthcare worker now, at this particular, unusual and very confusing time in world history, at the beginning of the 21st century. At a time when vast demographic and other changes, technological, health, social changes, are occurring across the world. It's a time of unique opportunity and unique danger. And I actually believe that as Christian healthcare professionals, we have a special and important role in the growth and witness of the worldwide church in the 21st century. And you and I have been called to be part of this great adventure. I mean, you might wish that you could have chosen another time of world history, but actually, in reality, you only have one choice. The only choice you have is this. You can choose to become the person, the physician, the healthcare worker that God created you to be. You can choose to walk the walk and to do those good works which God created beforehand. Or you can say to God, no way. You can turn your back. You can refuse. You can shut your eyes. You can harden your heart. That's the question. It's a question of the heart. I know there are lots of young people here, and a lot of young people, and I myself when I was young, you spent a lot of time and mental energy worrying about God's guidance. How on earth can I know what I'm supposed to do? How can I choose what area to go into? How can I know what's right for me? And it's easier for me when you're at the other end of your career. But, you know, I think you should spend much more time concentrating on getting your heart right rather than concentrating on wondering where you're going to be. The truth is, if what I've just said is really true, and God's word said it is true, if God has really, for 13.3 billion years and more, been planning and preparing for your arrival and creating good works for you to walk through them, do you think that whole thing, the God of the universe, is all going to blow apart because you happen not to be concentrating on one Thursday evening and got in the wrong job? I mean, maybe our sovereign God is bigger than that. Maybe he can use us and put us in the right place, however much we go wrong. And as I look in my life and this whole chaotic series of choices and changes and movements in directions, and it looks like chaos, but actually as I look back, amazingly and wonderfully, I see the sovereign hand of God. And the same will be true for you if you only let him rule your life. And so the thing to concentrate on is your heart. It's not about choosing what's the right thing to do. Is my heart going to be right? Or am I actually going to say to God, no way, I'm going to go my own way? So I have been working, as you hear, as a baby doctor, and I've spent most of my life working in a big intensive care unit in central London at UCL, University College London, big regional teaching and referral centre, and caring for very sick and vulnerable little babies It's a very highly technological kind of medicine, as many of you will know if you've been in a neonatal unit. And it raises all kinds of dilemmas and challenges. When I show this picture, I often say one of the problems in a neonatal intensive care unit is to find the patient. Somewhere in the middle of all that technology, there's a tiny little baby and a whole lot of tubes and other stuff coming out of it. And, of course, as technology has advanced, and one of my areas of research has been brain damage, we've got better and better at picking up brain injury. But then the question comes, what do we do with this information? If we can predict highly accurately, or at least with a certain degree of accuracy, what kind of cerebral palsy this baby is going to get, what kind of difficulties they're going to have, how do we use that information? Is it right to switch off the machinery? And then how do we discover who makes the decision? And that's actually my hand and one of the babies on the baby unit. And there's a huge amount of resources devoted to trying to support and care for these babies. In the UK, it costs about £1,500, that may be 1,800 euros per baby per day, to provide this level of intensive care, all paid for by the state in the UK. And so we invest enormous sums of money in the care of these babies. But just one floor away in the same hospital is the fetal medicine unit. Again, a very high-tech, advanced, technologically sophisticated area of medicine. And here, pregnant women from all over London and the southeast of England are referred, and they undergo a whole series of complex investigations. Particularly, they're referred if there's a worry about the fetus, the unborn baby. And sophisticated investigations here, ultrasound, to examine the baby in detail. This is amniocentesis, taking fluid, amniotic fluid. And quite often this particular pattern of chromosomes is found. So we know she's a little girl, 2X chromosomes, but there's an additional 21 chromosome, trisomy 21, Down syndrome. Of course, we can't tell from the carrier type how severely affected this little girl is going to be. But in the UK and in many Western countries, if this pattern is found, the mother will routinely be offered an abortion, a termination. And in the UK, the statistics show that in 2013, about 92% of mothers where this pattern was discovered went on and had an abortion. And in fact, because the amniocentesis procedure itself carries the risk of causing the death of the pregnancy of the fetus, it's possible to calculate that for every one baby detected with Down syndrome, between 2 and 4 healthy babies, unborn babies, will die as a result of the testing procedure. So here we seem to have a very different message about the value of life and about how we should invest in this. And strangely and painfully, in the UK, it's legal for abortions for medical reasons to be carried out at any stage in the pregnancy, all the way up until term. And although the numbers are small, in my hospital in central London, late terminations, or feticides as they're called, are carried out at 26, 28, 30, even 32 weeks or more. And on many occasions, I've been called up from the neonatal unit, where we're struggling to save the life of an extremely preterm baby, to go one floor up to the fetal medicine unit to counsel parents who are considering having a termination. And the baby in the woman's womb is considerably bigger and tougher and stronger than the baby we're struggling to save one floor down. And then you say, how is it possible in one hospital and in one medical system to have these two contradictory things going on? And there's a big, long answer to that question, and it's an interesting and challenging question. Previously, I've suggested that it's almost like there are two different worldviews, two different ethical approaches going on In fact, they're both very ancient ethical traditions. One traces its way back to Christianity, one